there wasn't a day on set that I, as an actor, didn't learn something. And inversely, I don't think there was a day in Tolkien's world that his characters aren't constantly growing. And because of that, there are infinite possibilities in how this story can live.
I want to start with you. In talking with J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, what were kind of, from the beginning, some of the high-level notes they had? What were they looking for in The High King?
Well, one of the things we wanted to preserve was what Tolkien wrote about it. That he historically has been incredibly prescient. He's this kind of elvish spidey sense of the impending rebirth of evil. He always kind of sees it a second before. And so when we find him at the beginning of season 1, he's in a time of peace. But for Gil-galad, that means something entirely different. That peace and liberty require constant vigilance. And I think he's certainly vibrating, and he's playing the long chess game of the preservation of Middle-earth. Also, we have to remember that these elves chose to stay, that they could have gone to Valinor and lived on the elvish Valhalla beaches and lived happily ever after in light and love and ecstasy. But they chose to stay on this dirty, disgusting, decrepit lump of rock populated with creatures that all want to kill each other. And that they could potentially make the ultimate sacrifice to preserve hope. And that makes them unique. That in spite of their immortality, in spite of having suffered the experience of the death of everyone they've ever known and loved over and over again, they still muster hope. And no matter how often evil rears its disgusting head, they rise to the challenge. And I love that about Gil-galad. But when we find him, he's holding his cards very close to his chest. And I think he's, if he were a duck, underneath his flowing golden robes, he seems poised over the water, but his little webbed feet are going nuts. His barometer is like, too quiet around here, guys.
Something is wrong.
I love about him.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate that you mentioned his kind of spidey sense, because going back, that's when Anatar shows up and is like, I have gifts for you. Gil-galad's like,
you like this guy? Get this guy out of my house.
Come on.
Yeah,
how do you not see this?
Smell it in the air. And not only that, he's got this connection with the life force of Middle-earth, almost as if he can feel the tentacles of evil slithering beneath the crust of Middle-earth. He knows it's there. And so it begs the question, what am I going to do about it?
Right. And
in walks Elrond, in walks Galadriel, then our story starts to blossom.
Well, look how you just
see him as a very clever politician. We know him as a warrior. We're going to get to see him as a warrior, but he's a politician in the sense that we wish we had, and that he attempts to bring out the best in all of us so that when we do need to come together, we can.
And it's great to see that, because, what we've seen on screen of elves, they're a little focused on themselves and kind of we've tried to help Middle-earth, and this race of men keeps mucking it up. I think it's important to see an elf who's kind of we're all in this together, and we can't ignore this problem away.
That's right. And peace is always tenuous, especially when we know what they know about the nature of man. And something I know that Tolkien believed, that kind of self-destructive thing. You let the kid play in the kitchen for too long, he's going to burn the house down.
You're setting it up. You mentioned Elrond and Galadriel, and something I appreciate about Gil-galad, he does forge alliances. He does build relationships. In the series, what would you say his most key relationships are as it goes on?
First and foremost with Elrond. He knows the half-elf needs to prove himself. And I think he can also relate to his I mean, even though he's thousands of years old, his kind of adolescent quality, he's trying to find his place. And Gil-galad is going to encourage him to take the first steps in the journey toward his ultimate destiny. But he does it in the way that a loving parent would, which is to allow them to make their own mistakes, or to encourage them to do things and convince them that it was their idea in the first place. That's what a loving, it happens in relationships every day of, that by doing so, I can see the potential in you. And the way I mean, people use the word manipulate, but the way I manipulate you makes you more you. It's a win-win. And they have that, where they are at odds, but they love each other and they're growing together.
And I think that's a good way to put it, because manipulating isn't always bad. It's
right.
Sometimes it's putting someone in the right position where they can thrive.
That's right.
And learn.
And, because Gil-galad has this perspective and this gift, he can see his potential. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Manipulation gets a bad name.
Yes, there are many shades.
That's right.
It's nuanced.
Because it's not ever for Gil-galad's ultimate selfish goal. That's the manipulation that we hate, where someone takes advantage of us. But when someone offers us the opportunity to become who we want to be, that's love.
Well, and it ties into like a greater theme of Tolkien too, right? Are you coming from a selfish point of view or a selfless one?
Right.
And how does that? Yeah. So Gil-galad carries a number of titles too. Do you feel any of his many roles and his history? He's been around. Do you feel like that? How does all of that weigh on him, I guess, or does it?
I think he uses it as this kind of resource that he can, because they have these incredible memories that he is, because he's experienced so much, his wisdom is earned, and it's part of why he can sense these things. And also, he's about timing. He has all this information and he has all this awareness, but he has enough love and consideration to know when is best to tell people. Do you go on the PA system and say, there's an asteroid coming to the Earth, everyone freak out? No, you build an infrastructure, you allow everyone the possibility to protect themselves and start the project of splitting the asteroid in half before everyone even knows it's coming. That's what he's trying to do, and that's what a good politician does. That's what I like about him. He's playing a long game, which for an elf is very long.
I'll say for so long. Yeah, inciting panic rarely produces good results.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, the very practical elements as well. Elves usually have these, they're seen as very ethereal and elegant, and you have fancy robes. So just that aspect of it, getting into the costumes, getting into the training for any stunt work that you did. What was that like?
I love all that stuff. That's part of the fun of being an actor. A lot of actors complain about, I had to be in the chair for 2 hours in the morning while they put my ears on. I mean, you mean you got to be a blank canvas to an artist to create something that makes your job easier? Who are you? I love it. The costumes, the amount of love and care and craftsmanship and detail that has gone into the runes on the cuff of my gown. It is humbling and inspires me to do the best that I can do. And every little bit is a work of art, but also a little tool for storytelling. For example, Gil-galad has these rings. He's adorned with these beautiful, ornate stones and gems, and they all have these specific meanings. And but Kate Howley, our designer, we were talking about preserving the political side of him, but also there's this constant undertone of, we know Aeglos is in the closet, that he is a warrior, and that we know that's ultimately where he's headed. So the rings, when he makes a fist, kind of become this ornate set of brass knuckles. Nice. And his hair is long, like we're traditionally expect to see, but if you look closely, it's shaved on the sides like the warrior's mohawk. it is functioning on all those levels. So every time you watch an episode, you're going to see something a little more. Like every time I return to his writings, I experience something new. That for me is only fun, and I feel supported and cared for, and that we all are united in this mutual respect for what he created.
That's lovely. It all sounds very considered too, and
Yeah.
very thought out. You talked about this earlier, what you admire about Gil-galad, and you've had, time, more like a fair amount of time to keep exploring the character now, I guess, over the series, without spoilers, of course. What traits of his do you think we see develop the most?
Trust. I think because he has such a sense of the inevitable that it is difficult for him to trust. It is difficult for him to, after all this time and experience, say, I don't know. And that's where he has to let his own world have a life of its own. He has to kind of let go, like a parent does. The ultimate last loving thing is to let them go out on their own and to trust that they will do the right thing, and that they will know what that thing is. And I think that's why these characters that Tolkien has created continue to evolve. Otherwise he's just this prescient ruler who's got a lot of experience and can, get gas when he needs to. It's so much more alive than that. He is also constantly evolving. There wasn't a day on set that I as an actor didn't learn something. And inversely, I don't think there was a day in Tolkien's world that his characters aren't constantly growing. And because of that, there are infinite possibilities in how this story can live. But trust, he has to learn to do that.
Yeah, the change and adaptation of the characters is so key to the story, to any of them finding success, to fighting evil, is that they have to be open to what's going to happen. I don't know, but I can't let things stand as they are.
Yeah. Are you going to leave me alone naked on the battlefield? Are you going to come over the crest of the hill as the sun rises? That moment of holding your breath. Those are the reasons we read the books and we watch these stories. And we're certainly devoted to keeping the suspense of possibility.
Amazing. Well, thank you for your time, Ben. I appreciate it. Can't wait to meet your
pleasure.
characters. Thanks
It's been fun.